Evan arrived home a little later than usual. A meeting with an up-and-coming child actor who already has the attitude of Patti LuPone insisted no one leave the meeting until her demands for a larger trailer and a pay increase of $35,000 were met. Evan, being the intermediary, tried to bargain with the studio heads while walking on eggshells as his juvenile client watched him squirm. By the time he came home, he was famished and ready for dinner. Evan was surprised to see his two children sitting in front of the television watching Bugs Bunny. "Where's Mom?" "Upstairs on her phone. She's been doing it for over an hour. Can we order pizza?" "Sure. Tell them to charge my account." Evan ran upstairs. Making his way up, he turned around and yelled, "No soda." He could hear Heather from halfway up the staircase. The door to the bedroom was a 3-inch thick slab of cherry wood hand-carved by her father. Evan didn't care for the door. In fact, he actually hated it. When the door was closed, you couldn't hear a damn thing from the outside, which he didn't really like. He wanted to know if someone broke in before they were standing inches from the edge of his bed. As Evan approached the top of the stairs, the voices became clearer. Despite the door being closed, it was as if Heather was yelling in his ear. He slowly opened the large chunk of wood that separated Heather from the rest of the world, and saw her sitting on the floor with mascara in her hand, fixing her eyes. "Yes, I actually learned to heat it up for fuller lashes. Doesn't clump as much. Use a hairdryer." Evan waved his hand to grab her attention. She brushed the air in his direction, shooing him away. "I'm busy," Heather whispered away from her phone. He whispered back, "Do you know what time it is? The kids haven't eaten." "They'll survive. It hasn't been that long. You have no idea the day I've had." Heather turned back to her phone. The illumination lit her face like a neon campfire. "I'm no scientist, but I imagine the heat allows for it to spread evenly. Watch." Heather clicked the button on her blow dryer and held the mascara bottle to the camera, running the heat up and down the bottle. The loud fan drowned out Evan, and with that, he gently closed the door, not to disturb her any longer. As he approached the bottom of the staircase, he saw Stephanie and Tyler at the bottom of the steps. "Is she almost done?" "She's busy. But that doesn't mean we can't have fun, right? Why don't you pick a movie? Something appropriate for your brother. No horror. I'll grab the pizza." Evan's watch buzzed, indicating it was 6:30 a.m. and time to wake up. Stephanie and Noah slept huddled together on the far end of the couch, while he remained somewhat upright. "Christ," he thought to himself as he felt the stiffness in his lower back set in. Evan quietly got up not to disturb Noah and Stephanie. He gently kissed them both on the forehead and quietly headed upstairs. Evan tried his best to open the monstrosity that was his bedroom door, but the old handcrafted metal hinges hissed, waking Heather. Wiping the crusted drool from her mouth, she snorted, "Evan?" A painful jolt shot from her back, a result of 9 hours on the artisan-crafted hardwood floor. "You slept on the floor?" "It was a rough night." Evan sighed, raising his fingers to his eyes. "All right, sweetheart. I love you. Coffee's ready." Today was a big day for Stephanie. The science fair was next week, and today was the day they brought their projects into class for final inspection. Stephanie loved science, and Evan encouraged it. She would ask questions years beyond her age, and he knew she was destined to change the world. "Can we put the top down?" asked Stephanie. "I think it's best we leave it up. You work so hard, and I don't want the wind to damage it." Stephanie pouted. Traffic was heavier today. A water main broke, causing the long line of cars to sit on their horns, creating a belligerent symphony. "Is Mommy okay?" Evan wasn't expecting that. Not this early. His job requires him to prepare for the worst scenarios, and even he wasn't prepared for that question. "Yeah, she's okay. Why do you ask, sweetie?" There was a pause while Stephanie brought her finger to her chin. He couldn't help but giggle at how cute she looked. "What's so funny?" I just love you. He dropped Stephanie off at school and watched as she carried her project as big as she was through the big red rusted doors. Miss Laugstein held the door for her, waving to Evan as he drove off. Back in traffic, he turned on the radio. Huey Lewis and the News played If This Is It, a classic. In an attempt to drown out the noise of horns and jackhammers, Evan cranked it up. The music didn't last long until his first call came in. It was Heather. I'm not happy. What's wrong? I don't like how we left it this morning. Well, falling asleep on the floor doesn't set a good example. Not me, you idiot. You don't understand. You never support me. Sweetheart, I love you. I cannot do this right now. It's never a good time for you, is it? I didn't say that. I'm on my way to work. It's always an excuse. Heather hung up. He pulled into the parking lot, flashed his ID to Paula, the security guard, and she waved him in. The conversation raced through his mind as he rocketed to the 32nd floor to the tune of elevator music number 12. When the doors swung open, he was greeted by Miss Bronstein, who at times appeared like a frail older woman until she opened her mouth. Before he could say hello, she cut him off. Parker's moved the meeting up to 10, which freed you up to noon, so I scheduled your conference call with Louis then. It gives you more than ample time to chit-chat before you get into the dirty details. Roger wants to see you at 3, but I told him you have an appointment at Stephanie's school at 45. It's our little secret. She winked. Should get you out of here at a reasonable time. Annie, I don't know what I would do without you. She smiled. That's why I'm here. He slipped between the glass doors that separated the conference room from the rest of the world. Across from him was William West, the biggest movie star since Brando. Today was a big day, and nothing, not even Heather, could change that. He set his phone to silent and took a deep breath and began. We can talk numbers later, said the stumpy man in the pinstripe suit. He was Rodney Fillon, and he was William's manager, a heavy-set man with balding hair and a double chin that chafed when he spoke. People in the office joked. If the Penguin from Batman was a real person, it would be Rodney. Rodney was a real shark. He fought hard to get what his clients needed before his clients even know they needed it. Rodney was a staple of the industry, as old as talkies themselves. His passive-aggressive attitude gave him a reputation that those who underestimate him do so at their own peril. Rodney looked at William West, eyeing his demeanor, and asked, "Any questions? Now's your time. These agents are snakes if you haven't learned anything in the last year." Without acknowledging him, Rodney continued, "Once they get their grip around you, they squeeze you for everything you got." Rodney finally glanced over to Evan. "No offense." "No offense?" Evan thought to himself. How else would I take it? "None taken," he said between his teeth. Evan knew if he wanted to close the biggest deal of his life, he would take anything except offense. William West was what the industry calls a method actor, which means he was completely out of his mind. Last year, William was cast to play George Washington. To get into character, he pulled all of his teeth and replaced them with a replica of spring-loaded wooden dentures made from the teeth of the deceased. If nothing else, the man is a walking headline. So as long as he keeps his nose out of any sexual misconduct, he's a meal ticket, and Evan knew that. "William, I know the industry. It's filled with a lot of slime balls. I want to assure you that here at Drake, Liston, Parker, Dune, we pride ourselves on putting our clients first. And as a show of good faith, if you're willing to sign with us, I promise to get you a blockbuster by the end of the year. Spielberg's making another one of his infamous comebacks, and I can see you as a leading man." Evan cut himself off. "Don't answer now. Think about it. Let me know." Silence filled the room. William stared at Evan. Evan wondered what he was thinking. William had the same look a crocodile has, moments from snapping its prey from the edge of the water. His eyes were cold and dead. He was impossible to read, and this moment of silence felt like an eternity. Finally, the silence was broken. I'll think about it." That was it. That was all he said in a 2-hour meeting. Evan was pleased. It went better than the stories he's heard. Rodney collected the papers and knocked them against the table to organize them. We'll be in touch. They both got up and left. As soon as the doors closed, Evan let out a deep breath. It felt like he was holding his breath for 2 hours. He was not one to set expectations, but something told him he won this game. He closed his eyes and enjoyed the presence for a moment. For the first time in a long time, there was something to celebrate. Suddenly, there was a tap on the glass. Evan, startled, saw Miss Bronstein standing there waving her hands in his direction. She mouthed, "Emergency!" For a moment, Evan was on top of the world. But as the world's most famous physicist once said, what goes up must come down. Evan opened the door and saw an ocean of eyeballs staring in his direction, as if it was rehearsed. The first thing that popped into his mind was tragedy. His stomach sank. Did something happen to the kids? He just wanted to die just thinking about it. His throat became sandpaper. His heart raced in his chest, pulsing in his ears. His breathing became shallow, vision tunneled, dizziness came over him. His skin became cold and clammy as it crawled with goose pimples. He was no longer human, but an autopilot version of what he once was. Instinctively, he said, "What's wrong?" "You look pale. Let's get you back to the office. You're going to want to be sitting for this." Miss Bronstein escorted him to his office. Eyes followed him the whole way without trepidation of social cues. Whatever it was, politeness took a back seat to curiosity. Miss Bronstein sat him down in his white Herman Miller chair. Something, on a normal day, he took great pride in. But today, it was just a chair. When he sat down, the air leaving the foam let out a small hiss. He never noticed this before, but in a hyper-aware state, he could watch the time between a fly's wing flap. Miss Bronstein handed him a cold water bottle, which he quickly slapped away. "I don't want water. What happened?" Miss Bronstein pursed her lips and looked to the ceiling. "Was it the kids? Oh, Christ, please tell me they're okay." She quickly interjected. The kids are fine. He took a deep breath. For the second time today, he felt like a weight was lifted off his chest. "It's Heather. She okay?" "She's fine." "Well, then what is it?" "I think it's best you see for yourself." Miss Bronstein closed the blinds to his office and opened his laptop. On the screen was a video of Heather, lipstick smeared behind a pound of caked-on foundation. Her mascara ran from her eyes like an escaped convict. Her eyes were bloodshot red and swollen. She looked like she's been crying for hours. There was a big play button in the middle of the screen. He clicked it, and the video started. "What the fuck? Do you have any idea how this makes me look? Stop yelling! Abusing you? I don't even know what to fucking say!" He paused, pacing back and forth, holding his head in his hands. "What did I say? What did I do to you?" He lowered his tone, looking at her with a pain she's never seen before. Evan asked, "What did I do? We barely sleep in the same bed, Heather." "You wouldn't understand." "I wouldn't understand what?" There was a silence. His eyes swelled with tears. "Please, I'm begging you, please help me understand." He took a deep breath to collect himself. Heather thought to herself how honest she really wanted to be. She knew telling the truth would hurt him, but maybe it's time he felt how he made her feel. "Remember 2 nights ago when I posted a video about those fucks in their comments?" What? What are you talking about? Why didn't you tell people I was... Just fucking listen for once in your goddamn life. Remember when I posted the video about the hate I received online? I'm sorry. I don't remember. I'm struggling a little bit to think right now. She continued. Well, that video backfired. This morning, I was trending on Twitter. She paused for a moment to hold back tears. There There were hashtags. Heather took a deep breath to collect herself. What are you talking about? They're comparing me to Hitler! What don't you understand? Heather said, pounding on Evan's chest. He grabbed her wrists, trying to stop the beating. Have you lost your fucking mind? Do I need to call Dr. Schwartz? Are you having another episode? He meant it sincerely, but as the words left his mouth, there was a venom hidden that surprised even him. Heather jumped back. Just fucking listen! You said I abused you! I needed to win them back! The air became dead. What? What did you just say? I needed to win them back. They could have done serious damage. I needed to think quick, and people feel for a victim. I'm sorry. Heath. Oh, Jesus, I need a minute. Evan stepped into the bathroom to splash cold water on his face. He looked into the mirror and saw his skin pale as a ghost. The bags under his eyes weighed down his face to look like something out of his nightmares. He felt dizzy and disoriented. He took a deep breath and let out a loud spraying water all over the sink and mirror, something Heather normally would complain about. He wished she would waltz in her purple negligee, complaining, "You never clean up after yourself," as she wiped down the mirror and counter. Things were simpler before she became a celebrity. He wiped down the mirror and sink and stepped out of the bathroom more confused than angry. She was on her phone, giggling to herself like a schoolgirl. She looked up at Evan, grinning ear to ear. "My post got 5,000 likes."